Hello everyone, it's Paul Tilley and welcome back to MR2350 e-Business. Today we're looking at Unit 6, which is Supply Chain Management. In this unit, we're going to discuss the evolution and growth of business-to-business e-commerce, as well as potential benefits and challenges that exist. We're going to describe new procurement supply chains and how they relate to business-to-business e-commerce. We're going to identify the major trends in supply chain management and collaborative commerce. We're going to look at and describe different characteristics and types of net markets. We're going to describe the objectives of private industrial networks and their role in collaborative commerce. This is found in Chapter 12 of the 2021 edition of the textbook. So first of all, let's look at supply chains. The supply chain is the links that connect business firms in the production of goods and services. And supply chains are really complex systems of organizations, people, business processes, technology, and information, all of which need to work together in order to provide products efficiently and effectively to customers. Part and parcel of the supply chain process is the procurement process. And this process is the process where we actually purchase goods or services and is usually in reference to business spending. So business procurement requires preparation, solicitation, going out and finding potential suppliers, and payment processing, which usually involves several areas of the company. So you can see that it's integrated type operation. From an e-commerce point of view, we use the term business-to-business e-commerce, or B2B digital commerce, to describe specifically the portion of business that involves a business buying from another business. So it's not going to the end customer. And the e-commerce component is the fact that it is facilitated by the internet or mobile apps. If we look at the evolution of B2B e-commerce, we can see how much is growing. We think about all of the components of it and how much it's grown over the last several years. Things like automated ordering. The first stage of development of B2B e-commerce was really taking place in the mid-1970s when companies or stores or retailers or whatever would kind of, look at their inventory levels. And once your inventory level went to such a point, a low point that is, a minimum point, it would automatically trigger an order for a new product. So effectively, it was an automatic ordering process. And generally, that involved things like telephone modems to send digital orders to companies. And these systems are very much in use today. So effectively, Walmart, for example, when they keep track of their stock, and when their stock gets below a certain point for a certain item, it is automatically triggering an order. The second major component is electronic data interchange. And again, 1970s, new form of computer communication existed that allowed computers really to talk to one another. That had not really been envisaged before. That was before the age of the internet. So EDI provided a communication standard, really, that allowed computers to talk back and forth. And this was analogous, say, to email, and allowed things like invoices, purchase orders, shipping bills, product stock numbers, settlement information, all of that stuff to be transferred amongst businesses without any paper. It was a paperless electronic system. With the emergence of the internet in the 1990s, the B2B commerce websites emerged along with commercialization of the internet. So B2B commerce websites are relatively simple and easy form of B2B commerce. They're easy to understand, easy to use, and more or less an online catalog that allows someone to go and size up what is the product, get the information on it, and be able to make the order. We also have something called private networks, and private industrial networks really emerged out of that. And effectively, what that was is companies who were in relationship with one another. One company supplied another company. They basically started sharing their networks, So private industrial networks are internet-based communication environments that extend far beyond the procurement to encompass supply chain efficiency enhancements and truly collaborate between companies. But again, it tends to be only involving companies that are dealing with one another. So it's a private type network amongst companies. building on that, we have something called net marketplaces, and they bring hundreds and even thousands of suppliers to a single internet point to allow them to conduct trade. So it's like a big clearinghouse of items where people can find products and buy products from companies, sorry. Companies can buy stuff from other companies. So the net marketplace is really bringing hundreds of companies together to allow one company to buy from another company or multiple companies, find out what they're selling, and just allow for that integrated effort. So net marketplaces also refer to internet-enabled marketing, distribution, and sales systems. We also have, in more recent applications, social networks and mobile apps, and these have become quite popular, where these net marketplaces have gone mobile and allow people to access them anywhere, anytime, any place. So what we're really talking about here ultimately is business-to-business transactions that are facilitated by some online tool. Okay, so before the internet, business-to-business transactions were simply referred to as interfirm trade. That was largely, one company buys from another. Today we use the term B2B, or business-to-business commerce, to describe all types of interfirm trade to exchange value across organizational boundaries, including both the purchase of inputs and the distribution of outputs, the products and services that companies make. B2B commerce includes the following business processes, such as customer relationship management, demand management, order fulfillment, manufacturing management, procurement, product development, returns, logistics and transportation, and inventory management. And we're going to look at a few of those as we move through here. In terms of business-to-business transaction, really what we're talking, the definition of that is, it is the transaction of the dealing between one company and another. So this definition of B2B commerce doesn't include transactions that occur within the boundaries of a single firm. It is outside the firm, okay? So the transfer of goods from one firm to another firm. This is really what this is about. We look at e-commerce procurement and how it has grown. It's grown phenomenally over the past number of years. So the procurement process really refers to the way businesses find and purchase the goods that they need in order to produce the goods that they ultimately sell to consumers. Firms produce goods from a set of suppliers who in turn purchase their inputs from a set of suppliers. These firms are linked in a series of connected transactions, and the supply chain is the series of transactions that link sets of firms to do business with each other. It includes not only firms themselves, but also the relationship between them and the processes that really connect them. So we need a management process for that. That's big. Companies buying lots of stuff from other companies. So supply chain management really refers to the wide variety of activities that firms and industries use to coordinate the key players in the procurement process. Old school procurement really involved calling someone on the phone, even emailing. Fax machines were common, face-to-face conversation, and basic instinct. And what it relied on was a trusted relationship between people, really, who worked in those firms to buy products from one firm to another. So these tend to be more human-based than technologically based. Supply chain management, though, has evolved. There are a number of major developments in supply chain management that really has taken place over the last couple of decades, really, since the internet has really become powerful and commonplace. And the management process has really set the ground rules for understanding how business-to-business e-commerce actually works, or in some cases how it doesn't work. So these developments include supply chain simplification, just-in-time and lean production, adaptive supply chains, sustainable supply chains, electronic data interchange, mobile business-to-business, cloud-based business-to-business, supply chain management system, and the use of something called blockchain in supply chains, and collaborative commerce. We'll explore these now. So if you look at supply chain simplification, all of this, no matter what the effort is really designed to make firms more efficient and effective, cut costs, boost profits, while at the same time getting the benefits of a traditional human face-to-face system that's really become so large and intricate now that human face-to-face is just going to be not possible. So we need to get all the benefits of the human plus the technology and put them all together. And this has really been the focus of a lot of companies and a lot of the business world over the last number of years. One way that they've managed this perplexing problem is to simplify supply chains. What we mean by that is companies will simply reduce the number of potential suppliers they have, so they don't have to have as many interactions. So suppliers that companies do have are so much more important to them. They don't have as many. So firms have greatly reduced the size of their supply chains and now working more closely with a smaller group of strategic suppliers, or we could call them strategic partners for that matter, to reduce both product cost and administrative costs while improving quality. These strategic partnerships between firms, between organizations, use things like just-in-time production. So effectively what just-in-time production is the product is made and is delivered just in time to be used in the production process of the organization that's buying it. So there's no real inventory, right? It comes in on a truck and then it gets loaded onto the assembly line and built into the product. So this involves a tremendous amount of coordination and integration. And the computer systems have been really good at doing this. So these computer systems integrate the companies, tightly coupling the production process with the delivery times and the production process of the other company so that products are produced in time to be added to the next level of production. This tight coupling really is a method of ensuring that suppliers precisely deliver and order parts at a specified time to a particular location, ensuring the production process is never interrupted for lack of parts. We had an example of a problem with this in the early part of 2022 when the border was blocked by truckers. We saw automotive plants in Canada and the United States shutting down shortly after those blockades began and no product was moving because our system is integrated. In other words, products are made in Canada that are shipped across to the United States, assembled into a car. That assembly is then brought back to Canada. More work is done on it. So this back and forth across the border is common for the automotive industry in particular. And so the supply companies need to get it to the company that is using it. General Motors, for example, like a car radio would get shipped across. It would get put in an assembly line of cars. So the car radio would actually get installed in the car just as it's delivered. This requires a very tight coupling, and the challenge with that is if something causes a delay or an interruption in the process, the whole system tends to go down. And that's exactly what happened in Canada and the United States when that blockade happened. One company that's really done a lot of work with this is Boeing. Boeing really has limited the number of suppliers, and you can see in this graphic I have here from a story that was reported in AeroWeb, the key Boeing suppliers are really a handful. Spirit Aerosystems, they actually make the body of 737s. And Precision Cast Parts, they make the wings and things like that. The Triumph Group, which make, again, structural parts. Pratt & Whitney, which make the engines. Collins Aerospace, which make the electronic components. Honeywell, which make electronic components. And General Electric, which, again, make things like engines. And Rolls-Royce, that make things like engines. So, Boeing has limited number of suppliers, and there is a very tight integration. And when you're building airplanes, multi-million-dollar outfits, the scheduling system for that is absolutely critical in order to be able to build a product on time and to reduce costs. We also have something called adaptive supply chains. And while firms have greatly simplified the supply chains process in the last decade, they also have sought to centralize the system, I'll call it. Okay, they've adopted a single global supply chain system that integrates all of the vendors together. So basically they're all talking the same language and they're using the same tools in order to be able to connect them together more completely. So usually that involves a single enterprise-wide system, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So basically they're all sharing one network. So to cope with the unpredictable world events, though, we've seen with COVID that has been a challenge. Unpredictable world events, supply chain issues. Firms are taking steps to create adaptive supply chains that allow them to react to disruptions and be able to source supply from some other place if one source of supply goes down. Another common element that we see today is sustainable supply chains, and this is really the environmental movement has pushed this. And what companies try to do here is to ensure that they have an efficient system while at the same time a system that regards the environment. And we want to cut environmental waste and problems in terms of the production, distribution, and logistics system. So notions of sustainable business have been powerful impact in supply chain thinking. In part, these efforts are good risk management. All advanced countries have substantially strengthened their environmental regulations. It makes good business sense for firms to prepare for methods and operations that's suitable for this new environment. As I record this, for example, we have a company that is going to set up in Southern Ontario to produce batteries for electric cars. And the world is moving towards electrification, and we're going to see more companies doing that sort of thing. So the supply chain will change from the internal combustion engine to electric engines over the next 20 years for sure. We also have electronic data interchange. So this is this traditional system that involves physically wiring one computer to another computer. That's essentially what it is, and those computers then can talk to one another. So EDI is broadly defined as a communications protocol for exchanging documents amongst computers using a certain specified technical standard. So EDI was developed to reduce costs, delays, errors inherent with manual systems where someone miswrites an order, for example. So purchase orders, shipping documents, price lists, payments, customer data is all connected electronically now, and it allows it for speedy, and it allows it for consistency, and allows for less errors. So EDI is used to eliminate purchase orders and other documents entirely, replacing them with production schedules and inventory balances. As we move forward, too, mobile is going to become more important. So mobile devices have become increasingly important in all aspects of business-to-business e-commerce, through all steps of the procurement process and through the supply chain. Business-to-business buyers are increasingly using mobile devices for all phases of the purchase process, from discovery, I just found out about the product, to the actual decision making, I'm going to buy your product, to the actual purchase. So a majority of business-to-business buyers worldwide now believe their mobile device is an essential working tool. So we're seeing mobile becoming increasingly popular. Another increasingly popular item is a cloud-based system. What do we mean by cloud-based? Well, cloud-based computing is really going to be the standard going forward. And effectively, cloud computing greatly reduces the cost of building and maintaining the infrastructure, so the computer technology, okay? So if traditionally, business-to-business enterprise systems, firms built their own systems, okay? Every firm had their own system, and the EDI was really designed to allow those systems to talk to one another. Now we've kind of changed the concept. The whole concept in cloud-based system is that a provider will provide those systems, and everybody will tap into the system. So it's like a central computer that everyone taps into. So the cloud-based B2B system, much of the expense of B2B systems is really the technology. That's shifted to these network provider companies. So they provide really a data hub. So the cloud platform really provides the computing and the telecommunications capability and establishes connections with partners, provides the software on demand. All of the support for that software is all handled by a central company, and individual companies just plug into it. So for example, you're watching this on a cloud-based system. It is uploaded to a server, the YouTube server, and you're watching it from there. So YouTube handles all the technology, and you get the benefit of it. So that's an example of a cloud-based system, and we're seeing more and more of that as we move along. Overall, all of this could be categorized as supply chain management systems, and they continuously link the activities of buying, making, moving, supplying, production, and integrating the demand side with really the supply side. So the simplification system involves just-in-time, lean production, focusing on strategic partnerships, enterprise systems, continuous inventory, evaluation and replenishment, and really is the foundation of the new supply chain management system. As we move towards increasing technology, we're seeing the development of blockchain. And all blockchain really is exactly this integration. If you can imagine a links of chain, okay? So blockchain it's exactly that. So each individual link is connected together. And that means that when you pull on one side, it pulls the other side. So blockchain is a transactional database that operates on distributed point-to-point networks that connects all the participating members into a single database that is highly secure, reliable, resilient, and inexpensive, such as a cloud-based system. Blockchain solves a number of problems with current transactional databases that firms use to keep track of orders, payments, shipments, customer requirements, and the visibility into the supply chain. Currently, firms that are party to a transaction have their own separate transactional systems, which can frequently be out of sync with one another. They don't really communicate. So blockchain offers a simple solution to a complex traditional system by creating a single database where there's a single instance of all the information needed to track the movement of goods. And this central system cuts down a lot of the work. This whole scenario is really wrapped up into the concept of collaborative commerce. It uses these digital technologies to permit firms to collaborate, design, build, market, and manage products throughout their life cycle. And this really is what we're driving towards. It involves a definite move from the transaction focus to more of a relationship focus, which I say builds on that human-to-human element that was missing originally. How do we get the benefits of human-to-human element in terms of business transactions while at the same time achieving the efficiencies of a computer-based system? So managing collaborative commerce requires knowing exactly what information to share with whom. Collaborative commerce extends beyond supply chain management and looks at the whole collaboration of new products, new services amongst multiple cooperating firms. Next, I just wanted to take a look at the procurement process and what really is involved when a firm, regardless of what system you use, goes to want to buy something, okay? To buy something from another firm. And if you look at this simple diagram here, it really breaks it down. And this is like the purchase decision process for firms. So this is the business-to-business purchase decision process. First, there's a search, okay? If you got a problem, you need to be able to look for a solution. So someone's out there searching. You're using catalogs, internet, salespeople, brochures, telephone, fax. That's a combination of traditional versus new technology systems. But effectively, you have to search for it. Out of that search, you're going to have a whole bunch of companies that are producing something that you want. You need really then to figure out what ones you want to deal with. This is really the next stage, the qualification stage. Which companies of the group that you found in your search are worth dealing with? So you need to research, check their credit history, check their competitors, find out about them. So the qualification process is determining which ones you want to deal with. Because again, as we've seen, companies are dealing with less and less suppliers. So we got to be able to find who are the best suppliers that make the best match. From a qualification stage, once they've qualified, then we need to negotiate with them. We need to go find out what exactly they offer, what price, what credit terms. Will they hold money for us? Will they provide the quality and quantity we want? Will they ensure that the timing is right? Because just-in-time inventory is going to require us to have excellent timing. Once we've negotiated and we've got a deal, we move to a purchase order. So we basically order the product through a purchase order, and we enter it into our system, and that then would generate the required paperwork in terms of the invoice, the payment, these sorts of things. The invoicing would come out of that. So invoicing is the actual bill that goes out. So we receive the purchase order, we enter it into our financial system, we enter it into the production system, we send out the invoice, we make sure that to match we got what we ordered, and that would move towards payment and ensuring that it does show up in our inventory. The shipping would be part and parcel of this. How we're going to track the shipping, how we're going to move the product, what may is best. So we got to be able to ship goods, deliver goods, enter a tracking system. So that's the important part. And finally, the payment, which is receive the goods, enter the shipping documents, verify that they're correct, cut a check, and basically pay the bill to move forward. So these activities are really very important in terms of moving products and items ahead. The first three steps really involve the decision of who and why to buy, and the remaining steps really is the process itself. Let's look at the different types of procurement that we can look at here. Really, procurement comes into two basic categories: direct goods and indirect goods. So direct goods are goods that are involved in the production process. They get used. So that car radio that I described a few minutes ago, that gets built into the car is an example of a direct good. But there are also indirect goods. Indirect goods are goods that are not directly involved in the production process but support it. Office supplies, photocopiers, these sorts of things are all the stuff that we would consider as comes under what's called an MRO, which is a maintenance, repair, or operations item. We also think about purchasing. What do we need to do? How do we pay? How do we purchase stuff? Well, we can contract purchases, which is the normal way we do it. Involves a long-term written agreements to purchase specified products at a specific price at a specific time. We also have spot purchases, which involves purchasing goods based on the immediate needs. So this is more of a one-off. Generally, firms use spot purchasing for indirect goods, although some cases firms will buy spot purchasing for direct goods. Spot purchasing is, as I say, not as well planned. We're probably not going to get as good a price on it. So for direct goods that are used into the product, in order to be able to make sure that we can keep our system running, we don't run out of product, usually contract purchases are used for those types of things. We also have multi-tier supply chains, and this is chains that go on for a long time. So the multi-tier supply chain is used to describe the complex series of transactions that exist between a single firm and multiple primary suppliers. You can imagine, Boeing would have, for example, many suppliers that would be used in order to build an airplane, and they need to be able to think about how are they going to produce them. So we got primary suppliers, secondary suppliers, tertiary suppliers, and these are the suppliers of the suppliers. So you can imagine this chain rolling down through, and the little graphic here would show that. So that's something, because if either one of those layers get out of sync, that could cause problems for us all. What are some of the challenges of supply chain management? Well, visibility is a problem. Demand forecasting is a problem. Production scheduling is a problem. Order management is a problem. Logistics management is a problem. We have to assess the ability to monitor supplies. How visible is it? And electronic material, stuff that's done electronically, it may not be as easy to see what was ordered and what wasn't. It may be easy, but it may be not absolutely visible. Demand forecasting, finding out what future demand is going to be, especially in a world like we live in now, where it's very difficult to predict demand. Product scheduling, informing your suppliers that you have a production schedule, here's when you need the product, when, where, and how. Order management, keeping track of the orders, payments, receipts, these sorts of things. And logistics management, which really involves the shipping, which can be a real challenging shipping because it's so important to you, yet you don't really have absolute control over it. So these are some of the issues that you want to take a look at there.